Today's episode is called How Are You Choosing to Pivot in 2021? We will be discussing how you can pivot your business in 2021, how you can add to your bottom line, and how can business owners maintain relationships in the virtual world. We will
educate your money now.
Hello, and welcome to Educating Your Money podcast. I'm your host, Krista Crotty, owner of Matnick Bookkeeping Services. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. Today's episode is called How Are You Choosing to Pivot in 2021? We will be discussing how you can pivot your business in 2021, how you can add to your bottom line, and how can business owners maintain relationships in the virtual world. We would like to thank Out and About Business Solutions for sponsoring our podcast. Today's guest is Krista Crotty, Business Crew Chief of Velocity Business Strategies. As the Business Crew Chief, Krista combines her formal training in mechanical engineering and production operations management with over 25 years of motorsports experience to help business owners better understand the operational flow of business and how constant change in an opportunity, just as lap on the racetrack, is the same yet different each time it is taken. So is the day-to-day life of entrepreneurs and business owners. From her corporate experience, Krista understands firsthand business world and the evolution phases of an entrepreneur. Throughout her life, she has used her determination, her perseverance, and understanding to help people grow and evolve both personally and professionally. Successes and failures in her business and motorsports helped expose her strengths and weaknesses, thus allowing Krista to evolve and learn along the way. One of her truest passions is helping business owners and entrepreneurs find their passion and turn it into profits. She looks forward to connecting and helping accelerate success. Hey, Krista, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Kristen. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so first I have to ask, you're gonna have to explain and let us know the title that you give yourself, Business Crew Chief, which is very interesting because usually people, we have CEO, owners, president. Why Business Crew Chief?
One, it's a conversation starter. Exactly what you asked me, like, well, what is that? And then it goes into, with my background in motorsports, just like a business owner kind of runs their business and looks at all their different aspects. As the business crew chief, I help business owners understand where their zone of brilliance is and help them focus on that a lot like a driver drives the car. When a race car driver comes in and does a pit stop, they don't get out and change the tires. They don't put fuel in the car. They don't make this adjustment or that adjustment. They take a drink of water and they go back out and they drive. So as the business crew chief, I help business owners drive their race car and then get them the help that they need to make that successful.
That's awesome. I love that. Obviously, so much has changed for us in the year 2020, and I'm sure we never guessed that it would trickle into 2021. Business owners have found themselves re-evaluating and making some tough business decisions last year. And now that we are in 2021, most are probably in for even more changes. Mm-hmm. So how have you seen companies and business owners pivot in these new times?
So one of the biggest things was, for me and my business, as well as several of my clients, was just accepting the fact that this is going to be our new normal for a while, right? It's just like when you plant your foot and you pivot in basketball, that one thing, that foot that you're on, that stays the same. So what is that anchor? What is that one thing that you've continued to do in your business that's worked well? And what can you now do to add multiple revenue streams, new products, new services, fill in the blank, whatever? Where else can you now supplement your business? What else can you take from your business that maybe in a face-to-face brick and mortar world didn't work? Now go back and those ideas that you really were like, ooh, that's really cool, I really like that. maybe it's time to reevaluate that. It's time to look at it again, because we're coming up on almost a year now where everyone's life significantly changed. You had to pivot. What was maybe floundering? What have you learned? Where have you assessed and said, you know what, this is somewhere else that I could improve. This is somewhere else that I could spend a little bit of time on. And, look at your numbers, look at how you're evaluating, does this work? Does this does this not work? I mean, I know from, your background in bookkeeping, first thing you look at is the numbers, right? Because if your numbers don't make sense, if you don't understand the numbers, guess what? The rest of your business isn't going to make sense either, right? And as you're developing these things, as you're developing and looking at the ROI, the return on investment, if I'm spending money here, what's my return? As you're doing that on all of these different things, it's really important that you see how it fits into the overall picture of your business. How does it fit? How does that puzzle piece fit with everything else that you're doing?
Right. And so, that 2020 was rough for most business owners, and many had to reinvent their businesses, as you mentioned, and also, or had to implement innovative techniques. What are some ways that they can continue to add value and add to their bottom line?
So one of the ways is what I have seen and what I've experienced is really a mindset shift. And these Chinese characters on the wall behind me, that's actually the word for crisis. It's made up of two characters. It's a quote that was made famous by JFK. And it is, the word crisis in Chinese is made up of two characters. One is danger and one is opportunity. And I look at that quote, especially reflecting on 2020 as 2021 is getting up and running and we're coming out of that entrepreneurial fog, that holiday fog, and starting to move things forward, right? Is you get a choice as a business owner, as a professional, as a human being, you get the choice to focus on either the danger or the opportunity. And businesses get the opportunity to focus on something different, to figure out different ways to fill in their bottom line. I mean, I know from listening to several things over the holidays and early into January, corporate America, the beast was woken up in 2020. Because they realized as corporate America that they can do a lot more with a lot less, right? Now it's the normal to be able to work from home. Now it's okay that your kids are running around in the background or the dogs are barking or the landscaper's blowing in the background, right? Like that's a new normal. That's accepted now. And corporate America is realizing that they can have their employees working from home for the cost of a laptop, an internet connection, a VPN service, a secure service, right? And their internet connection, and maybe a cell phone, right? So they can continue to communicate. So where can small to medium-sized businesses look at that as well and evaluate where they're at in their business? Do you have to have a brick and mortar store? Right. Do you have to have, I was use an example of someone I was talking with yesterday that's in merchant services, and she's had a couple of clients in the restaurant industry where they have pivoted and they took and said, okay, well now you can't be a server because as we know over the trials and tribulations of all of this, we were down at no capacity. We were outdoor seating only 25%, like fill in the blank, where are we at now? So what they did is they took that staff that would normally be a server serving people at a table, and they transitioned them into delivery drivers. They transitioned them into maybe somebody had a passion for helping with the online marketing, which most restaurants don't do a lot. Well, now, how much do they do online ordering, delivery, curbside pickup, you name it, right? So a couple of the restaurants that we had talked about over the past couple of weeks, they've pivoted now, and where before they weren't offering delivery, now they're offering delivery. And yes, the cost of maybe their insurance or different things has gone up slightly, yet they're still open and their employees still have a job. So where can the small to medium-sized business owner, where can the entrepreneur learn and watch what corporate's doing and implement those just on a smaller scale?
Yeah, I would definitely say restaurants probably are one of the top, industries that probably had to pivot the most.
Mm-hmm.
They were, because obviously restaurants are for coming in and socializing and sitting down. And I mean, that's why people go to restaurants. Otherwise,
Right.
they at home, right?
Exactly.
But they
Exactly.
had to pivot, and I think there were some great innovative ways that they came up with that we didn't think. And in a crisis and, panic mode, that they were able to say, let me do this, right? Let me change this so that we can stay in business.
Another great story of pivoting is, a health and fitness instructor or personal trainer starting to do things online, right? Well, there's a couple of different ways that I saw them do this over and throughout 2020 was starting to offer online classes, starting to record online classes that maybe nobody showed up at, but then they could record them and package them and sell them, right? A lot of things that, like you and I doing this interview, right? We do this completely online. We're completely separate. Where else can I've watched organizations, business communities, chambers of commerce. Now they have their big mixers, they have their big events, and they're all online. How can you take something that maybe was a novelty? I know a couple of weeks into it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna blow over, and now here we are almost a year later, right? So what can you continue to utilize so that when things are really opening back up, what you're doing now is an additional revenue stream, as opposed to, oh, we're back to normal now, we're back, live in person, and all that work that we did for the last year doesn't matter. Well, now we're going to see businesses with 2, 3, 5 different ways to increase their revenue, and we're going to see more and more people get more and more money in their pockets because they were able to pivot, I believe.
Definitely true. And I even took Pilates over Zoom, so I never thought that would happen, right?
Right. Well, who thought we'd be educating an entire generation over Zoom, right?
Over Zoom.
Welcome to the real world, right? Throw you in at, 6, 8, 10, 12 years old. By the way, this is how your parents are starting to work, so we might as well educate you that way too.
Right. Definitely. After almost a whole year of Zoom calls, as we mentioned, and web conferences, business owners have struggled with how to best network in this type of environment. So how have business owners had to change the way they network, and do you have tips, I guess, for them to do so in this environment?
So this was definitely an area that I was thrown into along with everyone else in March of 2020. It is about being visible. Through the end of last year, I did a series of videos called the 75 Days of Shift. I was listening to another podcast and I came up with this idea that oh, well, how can you do this? And how can you, that was actually a podcast from 2019, listening to it. And I had been challenged to do some videos and some live, recordings and that. And I ended up going live every day from, it was around the middle of October. There were 77 days left. And I was like, I'm going to give myself the 2 holidays I celebrate in my household, Christmas and Thanksgiving in the US, off. Other than that, I'm going live every day. So I did 75 different topics. And one of the things that has done for my business moving into 2021 is I was extremely visible. I was giving value, right? So people would see me pop up. 2 of the biggest platforms I used were LinkedIn and Facebook. And, going out there and doing those live videos. As a business owner, as someone who deals a lot in what I'll call intellectual property, I don't really have a product that you can touch, feel, and use. Mm-hmm. It's really important to be able to show the value and the expertise. And I know a lot of businesses in the past have struggled with that. Like, how do I give it away for free, right? Like, how do I do it and still make money at it? Well, if there's anything that the entrepreneur learned in 2020 is give value, and then you can sell something. Is that giving the value, like one of the segments that I did in my series was the 3 pillars of business, right? And you'll appreciate this doing the bookkeeping side of things. It's the operations, the admin, and the marketing. right? If you don't have those three kind of legs of your stool or those three pillars of your business, you're not really going to have a business. And bookkeeping falls into the administration side of things, taking care of your business, working on your business as opposed to in your business, right? And being able to share that kind of information with individuals throughout social media, social networks, et cetera, was one of the ways that I grew my network in 2020 throughout the pandemic. And it was really helpful to be able to be part of a business community. Like I've been on LinkedIn, we realized, for over 20 years. And being able to go, 18, 20 years, something like that. But being able to go out there and be like, okay, now I'm surrounding myself with professionals that are also doing business online and making those connections. I'm connecting with those people that we all know we never would have met in 2020 had we not been online, right? Like I have contacts now in the UK and Australia and Canada, like literally all over the world. I could have never networked with those people had the pandemic not happened. So looking for those opportunities and reaching out one-on-one was one way that I continued to grow my network. And I still do now. It's great because I don't have to travel to go to California to do a speaking engagement that I have coming up, right? They don't have to pay, as the Chamber of Commerce, they don't have to pay travel expenses. They don't have to pay to put me up. And I don't have to take the time away from my family to go travel. So there's ways that a lot of entrepreneurs have, I think in 2020, the number of speaking engagements in a year was broken by like mid 2020 because someone is able to do 5 or 6 events, speaking engagements a day in 5 or 6 different time zones. Whereas when we're back live, that's not going to happen. It'll never be done again. Right. So.
Yeah, that is so true. I spoke in front of a group in Atlanta, Georgia, and there's no way that, without, like you said, taking time away from your family or this expenditures that so I think it may be a little adjustment for those that have kind of gotten used to that, to have to go back or maybe, probably do a little bit more in person because,
I think it'll be a nice hybrid. I remember pre-2020 being at a couple larger events where, something happened, one of the keynotes or one of the speakers couldn't be there live in person and they would pre-record and play it on the big screen, right? So it's really kind of cool now to see that kind of come a full 180 pivot to where, there might be a few people in the room. I know being here in Las Vegas, I remember seeing pictures in October, November, December of events that were happening live in Las Vegas in the large ballrooms and conference rooms. Mm-hmm. And chairs were 6 feet apart in each direction and they were still happening. And that industry is another one that has continued to pivot and will continue to pivot as things continue to develop and change.
Yeah, and visibility is one thing. And I know one of the things that I think many of us, especially in the beginning of 2020, struggled with was maintaining the actual relationships. So what tips do you have for business owners in trying to maintain relationships over virtual environments?
Picking up the phone and calling someone when you think about it. That's something that I've been fortunate enough. I've done that all along. Or the quick text message, hey, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a while. That used to be the way 20 years ago, right? Before we had all of this technology, you'd pick up the phone, you'd talk to somebody, kind of going back to that old school stuff. If you have the ability to go to a park and, sit 6 feet apart, or if you're comfortable going to someone's home and that, you're healthy, they're healthy, et cetera, you can still do those things, just be cautious about them, right? The big one for me is picking up the phone and actually calling someone and talking to someone, or setting up and saying, hey, send them a message and say, hey, let's hop on Zoom, and then you can at least see each other, right? You get a little bit more of that personal connection. And again, just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I was thinking about you. Just want to hear your voice. Call me back when you get a chance. You know, one of the biggest things as business owners we get to remember is to come from a place of heart, come from a place of service,
Right.
and never look for and avoid looking for something in return every time we talk to somebody.
Right.
Right. It's that, hey, Kristen, I know your family, right? How's the family? How are the kids? How is this going? How's that going? And then, you know what, if you're able to, they need to make a connection to somebody, connect them to someone besides yourself, right? Help build that connection, who do we go to when we need a recommendation for something? We go to our friends, right? Hey, oh my God, my hairstylist isn't doing hair anymore. Who can do my hair? And you go to your friends and you get a recommendation. So, the same thing is true with business owners, because I know for me over the years, people that I've done business with have become friends and vice versa. And just picking up the phone, I had last week I had a woman that sent me a message. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. It's time for coffee again. Okay, great. So we're set up to go to coffee next week. So yeah, it's keeping it personal. And, sometimes leaving business at the door is one of the best things that you can do.
Sounds great. Great advice. So Krista, on top of offering a free discovery meeting with potential clients, you have prepared a couple of documents for our audience. So if you are interested, be sure to click the link in the comments. Krista, can you tell us a little bit about these documents?
Sure. So since your podcast is educating your money, I thought two that I use with my clients all the time would be perfect for this. The first one is an ROI calculator. It's a return on investment for an event, for a networking, for a relationship, fill in the blank. You can really play with it. Also, when you download these, I will say, if you have questions about them, hop on, schedule a discovery call and just say, hey, look, I have some questions on your spreadsheet when you answer the questions. So that was really cool. I was like, ooh, that'd be a really good one for your group. And then the second one is another spreadsheet, and it is monetizing your activities. So it includes basically, hey, look, you have these products and services and you want to sell so many a month and you have so many to offer. Calculates it all out, and then it will give you your monthly total, and then it will also give you your quarterly total and your annual total.
Those are some awesome, obviously. I will definitely be getting on the link to get my copies.
There's something that's been developed over time, and with my engineering background and all of that, like numbers are my thing. Like that's easy, and it's always fun to play with them. And you go, oh, look at that! I could have a $1.8 million year. All I got to do is get off my butt and do something,
Yep.
So it's really cool to. Yeah, it's exactly. Or, hey, connect with this many more people in networking and, get this much more exposure and, get the website done, have the shopping cart done. I know when I did that was huge, right? Because then it was like, okay, now this is up. Now as part of that, let's start getting some of that, those speaking engagements scheduled and this scheduled and that scheduled and get it out to the people that are on my mailing list and, do those kinds of things so that you can realize those returns on offering products and solutions.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to thank Krista for taking time out of her busy schedule, coming on the show and sharing her expertise. Be sure to post any questions or comments you may have. Let us know if there's a topic that you'd like to have discussed on the show. Comment below or email educatingyourmoney@gmail.com. Krista, if any of our followers have specific questions or wanted to get a hold of you, how can they contact you?
So I would love to hear from people. I am in the Pacific time zone. So same as California is the same time zone as Nevada. My cell phone number is 702-677-6923. That is both a voice line and a text line. And then you can always get a hold of me on my website, VB Strategists, so like Velocity Business Strategists with an S on the end.com. And then, of course, you mentioned if you want to schedule a connection with me, vbs-connect.com. I'd love to have a conversation and see how we can work together.
Krista, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great to have you. You gave so many great tips for business owners as we're in 2021 and we're, just kind of getting adjusted to the new norm. And you gave some great tips for business owners to continue their success, as well as maybe pick up some new ideas and innovate themselves in their business.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for watching Educating Your Money podcast, where it's not just about making money, but about educating your money. See you next week for our next episode. Be safe, everyone, and have a great day.